Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Game Day. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Tate Mathews. I'm Jeremy Qualls, your co-host as well. And I want to talk about this week's matchups and last week's games. Man, we got a lot to talk about from the football world.
Wow. A lot of great games last Friday night. The only bad thing about it is I wish I could have been at all of them because there were some really good ones.
There were some really good ones. But before we get into the football action that's taking place this week and what happened last week, let's talk about what's happening in the WCS Sports Conference this week. Yesterday, Tuesday, September the 30th, we started the state golf championship for the AAA level. And we have both boys and girls teams from Ravenwood participating.
Yeah, we talked about it. Whenever you're talking golf, Brentwood, Ravenwood, you know they're going to be right up there. The great thing is we've got so many, which I know you're going to go over, we got so many schools represented. But Brentwood went into the season one of the favorites in golf, and it looks like they've got a really good chance to win this. That'd be great for Brentwood High School and also Williamson County School System Athletics.
Well, the TWSAA has their event every year at Manchester right now at the Willowbrook course. And the girls team from Brentwood obviously will be there, but the boys team, let's talk about them for a second. Trevor Johnson, 4 under. Nolan Ray, 1 under. Cameron Smith, +1, and Will Howard at +3. That's a combined total of 2 under par for the team. That's unheard of.
It's amazing. We talked about it earlier. If they were playing in one of the Booster Club golf scrambles, fundraisers in the summer, I think they'd probably take home first place.
Absolutely. Nolan Ray come in, he's going to UT. He has a bright future ahead of him. I look forward to seeing Brentwood, see what they do. I'm assuming that going on through the week that they are the favorite to win, and hopefully they'll pull out the championship. Individuals from the conference that will be participating from Indy, we have Haley Smith. From Ravenwood, Alex Campbell. Ann Catherine Blackburn will be the girl representative from Ravenwood. Franklin has Mason Felkins, who shot 1 under to get into the state tournament. And Summit has Anna Horn, and Centennial finishes out the group with Mackenzie McGrath. So we have a large contingent from our conference that will be participating. Best of luck as they go on this week. Volleyball recap this week. Brentwood continues their streak. They're over 40 games, a win streak. That's another unheard of streak to go by.
It's unbelievable. She's been doing it now for almost 20 years. We said it last week. She doesn't rebuild, she reloads. Heavy favorite, I think, going into the state volleyball tournament. The Bruins, heavy favorite to bring home the AAA crown this year.
Girls soccer, Franklin High School. This is an unprecedented number. Jimmy Burchett got his 300th win for the Lady Rebels.
Yep. Congratulations to Coach Burchett. That's, I think, the most games you would play in a soccer season is 20. So 300 wins, that's the equivalent of 15, 20-win seasons in girls soccer. I'll stack that up against anybody.
And remember to follow us on Twitter, folks. That's why we use the hashtag second to none, because that right there is second to none when it comes to girls soccer. So let's move on. Let's talk about this past week's football games. And, man, did we have some dandies. I'm telling you, we had some fantastic games. Starting off, we'll talk about Brentwood. Brentwood's been struggling. They're young, going in against a state opponent, and we have talked about this week after week after week. Toughest schedule in the state. With losses coming to CPA, losses coming to Blackman. Now they come into state-ranked opponent Murfreesboro, Oakland, who's 5-1. Only loss is to Blackman. Was kind of on the back end of a lopsided loss, 49-7 loss to Blackman. What did we see?
We knew it going in. They were outmatched. Second quarter, it just got away from them. We knew they were going to have to protect the ball. They couldn't turn over, give Oakland some easy scores. 3 returns for touchdowns in the second quarter by Oakland. 2 of them interception, 1 of them a punt return right there in the second quarter. It just got away from them. You can't play catch up against a team like Oakland. So, what they couldn't do, they did. I think Coach Woodward said that. But again, that's one of the best teams in the state. So you can't be too down on that. That part of the schedule is over with. We're getting into the district schedule, the meat of the district schedule for them. And again, remember, they played Centennial right down to the wire. So don't let this record fool you. There's a lot of good things going on there. There just wasn't a whole lot of good things on Friday night.
And that's what Coach Woodward and I discussed, as this was the game of the week and his coach's preview show. We talked about that schedule and taking it deep into the heart of the district schedule and how it will pay off before it's over. So don't go sleeping on don't go sleeping on Brentwood, because they have a win over Dixon. They have that district win under their belt already. So I think when we get into the meat of the schedule that you may see Brentwood either being there at the finish or actually winning a couple of these games that could play spoiler.
That's right. And, he can look his guys in the eyes, now with Blackman, now with Oakland. That's as good as we're going to see the rest of the year, guys. Here's what we have to do to get better and to be competitive in these next 4 games.
Well, with that, we don't necessarily have a player of the week this week, Tate. We have something different. For the first week ever, we have what's called the crash of the week, and that came from courtesy of the Brentwood-Oakland game. Please watch this.
Ravenwood is now up 37-7. I told you, Matt, they'd like to give that first touchdown up and then just go ahead and dial it in. Robertson bouncing outside. Is that Kachumba?
Kachumba.
Yeah. Kachumba hangs onto the camera.
Hangs onto the camera. That's worth more than you are, Kachumba. Good job.
Kachumba.
A couple weeks ago, he broke a tripod.
He is.
That came out of his paycheck. He doesn't need to do that again.
No. Hangs in there.
Boom. As I told you, that's the 3rd week in a row we've had a tripod destroyed by something happening in a football game. But Brentwood, on the back end of that loss, don't sleep on Brentwood. I think at the end of the day, when the dust settles, they'll be okay. Moving on, Franklin. Franklin had a big win over Lincoln County. Big week for those guys. 4-1 going in, playing Lincoln County, who's predominantly, year after year, traditionally been a pretty good team. Just jumped on them early and never let up.
Didn't let up. Did what they were supposed to do. Had him at home. We talk about him every week. Joe Critchlow, he's a fan. We're fan favorites of him. 14 for 16. Again, I did my math. That's almost 88%. You're going to win a lot of ball games when your quarterback's going 88% in passing. He also had 188 yards. Touchdown to Garrison Mathews, his big tight end target. Malik Grimes. Every time you pick up the sports page, it's not did he score how many, another 3 touchdowns. They got up on him early, took care of business, got to play a lot of young guys in the second half. I think Coach Webb was probably pleased with just about everything in that game.
Critchlow, continued his streak of his quarterback rating being extremely high, 0 interceptions. I think he brings his total to 1 interception on the year. Playing outstanding for those guys. Those guys are going to be, man, we have some good football ahead of us. This game was pretty much over from the start. They jumped on them, didn't let them in the game, never let their foot off the throttle whatsoever, and the Rebellion rolled to another victory.
That's right. They really do have a home field advantage. That student section is unbelievable. So, again, they were supposed to beat Lincoln County. They did. And, again, you can't put enough emphasis on getting those young guys playing time in the second half because, they're going to be your guys in years to come. So, just a really good game for the Rebels.
It brings us to our 3rd game of the week. We put these guys possibly on upset alert coming in. Blackman's coming in, top team in the state. We knew that Independence had a high-quality win earlier in the year with Marshall County victory. Lost maybe to Ravenwood, didn't play as well as they had hoped to Ravenwood the week before. Blackman comes in, and Independence absolutely comes out of the gates on fire.
Unbelievable. Blackman, the number 1 team in the state, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, especially with that Ensworth loss now, Blackman's by far the number 1 team in the state. I'm a big Indy fan, big Scott Blade fan. I'll be honest, I really didn't see how any way Independence was going to be able to do much with them. They come out on fire. Andrew Bunch with 5 touchdowns, passing, 1 rushing. They're up 49-14. Nathan Johnson right at 200 yards receiving. 454 passing yards for Andrew Bunch. I mean, it was so close. I was watching that thing on Twitter, as I know you were too. I was at another game, but I'm just thinking, holy cow, I wish I could be watching this right now. Must have been a heck of a performance. Gosh, how heartbreaking to come up short on that.
So for those that don't know, 42-14 entering the 4th quarter. Independence has got a huge lead. Had a few miscues there early in the 4th, had some 3-and-outs. And then here they come. The Blackman Blaze scored right off the bat, got the ball back, scored again. And then with about 2 minutes to go, Independence has the ball, turns it over, and Blackman goes down, scores, and then goes for 2 with 40 seconds to go to put them up 43-42. Independence gets the ball back, turns it over on downs with the ball batted down on 4th and long, and Blackman escapes 43-42. I tell you what happened was they opened the door and the book on Blackman. I think they understand that a passing attack is Blackman's weakness, and I know that their quarterback Jawan sometimes does or does not play in the secondary, and I think he's going to have him in the secondary before it's over with, and that could make or break the Blackman down the road. We'll hope that we have another team from the WCS that has a shot at Blackman down the road.
Well, here's what I liked about it. All year long, everybody, and to be honest, I was one of them. I put Blackman and Oakland kind of above everybody else. This right here shows that we've got 2, 3, maybe 4 teams that can play with them. So who knows? We're definitely going to, one of our Williamson County schools is going to see them in the playoffs. I guarantee you they're all going to be asking, hopefully it's Independence again, but they'll be asking Coach Blade for that film.
Well, that's right. The WCS conference we are stacked with right now, the 4 horsemen that we've been talking about. Well, I'm still thinking Brentwood before it's over with, coming out of this group and being in the mix. So we are solid right now. I talked to Coach Blade this morning. He, keep your head up, and he was all excited about what they could take away from this game. Right. They have the bye week this week that they can build on what they did and finish this game strong. It'd be better to lose this game now than in the playoffs. So best of luck to them in the future. All right, moving on. Man, have we got the collision of the superpowers happening. And one side of that superpower right now is the Centennial Cougars. I'm telling you, 6-0, undefeated, 2-0, go in against Mount Juliet. Never much was a game. 39-10 at Mount Juliet with that big win. What do you think?
I think that Centennial's really playing well. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. They got banged up really early in fall camp. You can't tell it by the scores and by their victories. Haven't been beaten yet, but Centennial's starting to get healthy. That's pretty scary for everybody else in my book. But Mount Juliet, quality program, sounds like a broken record. Going into this game, they only had 1 loss. That's Blackman. 270 yards rushing, only 180 of them Deion Sanders. That means they got some other people running the ball. Centennial looking really good.
Coach Rector, I know they're excited. That student body there. We were talking about Franklin having a home field advantage. I really think we have 3 right now that are tops. Ravenwood right now, I have yet to see anybody beat. Now, the Rebellion would probably argue with me, and that's a fair assessment. But the Cougar Nation over there, the Cougars are strong at home as well. This is going to be a battle for the ages coming up this Friday, and we'll talk more about that later on. Centennial rolls to 6-0, undefeated. Moving on, Fairview, 2-3, 1-3 in the district. At East Hickman. East Hickman has not had a win. I know East Hickman was probably licking their chops coming in. Fairview had coming off a loss. 21-7, Fairview kind of rolls on that one. It's good to see Fairview get on that side of the column again.
Yeah, and it was obviously a tough game. East Hickman, they just can't quite get over the hump, but Fairview's another one. They've been a little bit banged up, getting back healthy. They got their quarterback back, 21-7 win there. They needed that win because they got a tough one coming next week. So, but Yellow Jackets, we don't talk as much about the district they're in, but that's one of the toughest ones around too. So good win over a solid, even though their record doesn't reflect it, a solid East Hickman team.
Moving on, staying in our lower division here, in Division 2, as I like to call it, at the WCS, Page goes into a top-ranked single-A team of Forest. And, we had both predicted Page to win that game, but, man, it was a hard-fought battle. Wow. Could have gone either way. And Page pulled out a 23-22 win in overtime and had to do some pretty heavy work to get into that.
Yeah, if you're Coach Rathbone, one thing you can take away from this: 1, Forest is a good football team. 2, it was at their place, which Chapel Hill, that's a tough place to play sometimes. So they were down late. They had to come back to tie it up. They get into overtime, they score, and they kick the extra point, and then Forest scores. Now they've got a choice: do they kick to go to another one, go for 2? Page holds on, keeps them from getting the 2-point conversion. So, hey, they fought to the very end, held on, got that win. Michael Magochi, we talked about him taking over for the youngster last year, Zach Mizell, who was such a stud. Michael Magochi is going to be a heck of a quarterback. 3 touchdown passings. Good win for the Patriots on the road.
Well, I know the Chapel Hill folks in Forest there. They were. It's a smaller venue. They're right there on the field, packed house. They've been winning. And I know that just broke their hearts, and we love it. Page came in, held them to 2. The old adage, go for the win at home and go for the tie on the road. They try to go for the win. Page stuffs them. The Pats hang on, once again, 23-22 in overtime. Moving on to Ravenwood versus Overton. The second half of the Battles of the Undefeated coming up. 5-0 at Overton, 2-4, 44-13. Once again, I cannot say enough about Ravenwood football right now.
Coach Hester has them playing really well. Overton, a very good football team. Here's what I saw. Van Jefferson, 6 catches, 128 yards, 1 touchdown. that tells me that's the most catches he's had in a game. That tells me they played him one-on-one. They tried to single cover him. They thought they could. They've got some really good players. Hugo Amani, they couldn't. They couldn't cover him. So that's pretty neat, and that just goes to show just how dangerous he is. So a big game by Van Jefferson. The Rowlands with another big game, and the reason I say the Rowlands, the brothers, Seth and Chris, 167 yards, 4 touchdowns between them. Defense played well. The Raptors are just, they're playing a very high level of football right now.
Well, when Van Jefferson has the type game he has, and Austin Percy still comes in and has 4 catches for 66 yards, and Austin Vert had 2 for 26. So we're looking almost knocking on the door of 100 yards of receiving yards with the other 2 combined. Who do they pick?
You don't.
We'll talk more about that when we get to that epic collision head-on-head, Centennial versus Ravenwood, coming up in the next segment. Last but not least, Summit versus Stewart Creek. Stewart's Creek coming in at 2-4, 6-17 loss, tough roll, Sparty. Man, they just can't get it. But what do you see real quick on that one?
The positive is they're up 6-3. They're driving late in the second quarter to get maybe another field goal. Go ahead, pick 6, 75 yards, 28 yards for a touchdown. With 28 seconds left, they just never could recover. So they're fighting. They're doing the right things. It's just
when you give up a play like that, it takes the wind out of yourselves. It breaks your heart going into halftime, and it's hard to recover for that. Well, when we get back, it's time for the pick 'em. Who are you going to pick? Who are we going to pick? Games of the week. And the epic collision of those undefeated teams. We'll talk about that as soon as we come back from break. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and this is my book, Black Beauty. I chose this book because I really like the illustrations, and my favorite part is when Black Beauty finds a new owner and he gets hurt, but the owner takes good care of him. And you could find this book at school or at a store.
Welcome back to Game Day. I'm your co-host, Jeremy Qualls. With me, as always, is Tate Mathews. And now we talked about games of last week. Let's talk about these epic matchups coming up this week. This might be the best week of football we've had yet, at least with one game for sure. But the first game off on the slate is Brentwood, 1-5, coming in. This is going to be the game of the week. Brentwood, 1-5, 1-1 in the district, coming in playing Franklin, 4-1. I know they come off a 49-7 loss at Oakland, but this will tell the tale to me of what Brentwood's going to do during the district this year.
That's right. This is the game they've got all the bumps and the trials and tribulations they've been through in the first half of the season. This is the one to see what they learned from it and if it made them better. And remember, kind of like an Auburn-Alabama game, anytime you put Brentwood and Franklin together, throw the records out, probably going to be a really tight game.
And I was going to say the same because you know for a fact that those guys have been licking their chops. And I'm sure Coach Woodward was going there and said, boys, we've taken our licks. We've gotten better. Now it's time to go out and prove it. And with this old school rivalry here between Brentwood and Fairview, you can throw it. It's a coin toss. Be a tough one. I'll be looking forward to talking about this one when we have our pick'em section here later to see who you're going to pick against Brentwood and Franklin. Moving on, we have Summit versus Dixon. Old Sparty. Could just be an upset alert. I may put them on upset alert. We'll find out later in the segment when we get to our pick'ems. Summit 0-6 coming in, 0-2 in the district. Dixon struggling as well, 1-5, 0-2 in the district. Dixon coming in off a 31-41 loss at Wilson Central. At Summit, what do you think?
Summit's getting better. When you look at the schedule at the beginning of the year, this is the one you think you can get. What they did against Stewart's Creek, what they're going to have to do against Dixon County. And then that we talked about that interception return. They can't make that mistake. But if they can not give up interceptions, punt returns for a touchdown, they got a chance in this one. Still going to be a little bit harder, but this is one they can pick off. Got to take care of the ball.
Absolutely. And once again, this is Summit still searching for the first home win in history of the school. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, we've talked about this earlier in earlier episodes that the Spartan Nation down there has had a great atmosphere. They show up for their games. It's homecoming week for those guys. They're already getting all their plans ready to go. Friday night could be that special night for for
I
Old
hope
Sparty.
so.
I do
That'd be
too.
a great environment.
I do too. Moving on, Fairview, 3-3, 1-3 in the district in Division II in WCS versus Lewis County, 3-2, 1-2 in the district. Lewis County coming in on a 24-28 loss to Hickman County, who at this time is undefeated, number 3 in AAA ball right now. What do you think?
I think Fairview's going to have to play well. Hickman County obviously is a really good football team right now. Lewis County will be upset losing that game. I mean, they can beat them, but they're going to have to beat them on offense. Lewis County, you know, they were a touchdown or two away from defeating CPA last year in the playoffs. So they lost some players. They're a good program, but this is one Fairview can win. It sounds like a broken record. Same thing. They're going to have to, if they turn the ball over, they're going to be in trouble against Lewis County.
Well, I think what you said was a very valid point. Lewis County, Hickman County, that's a rival from way back, the old brown jug. There's a brown jug pass back and forth between the two. And, you know, it was a 28 to 17 ball game for predominantly most of the game. Lewis County makes a late surge to get back in that game with the ball driving, and Hickman County holds them off. So the Lewis County-Hickman County rival can kind of fool you because of that. I'm not sure Lewis County is the typical Lewis County team of the past, but I still think that Fairview is going to have to put together 4 good quarters, take care of the ball. The young guys are going to have to play up a little bit, do the right thing, protect the ball. It's a big win for them. Big game for those guys.
Yep. I think they'll be ready.
All right, moving on. And this is an intriguing game. We talked about this off air. Page, 3-2, 0-2, coming off the big win against Forest, going to Giles County. Giles County's at 500 at 3-3, 1-1 in the district. They had a big loss, 31-48 loss at Shelbyville, which kind of surprised me. You know, if you kind of gauge that against the Shelbyville-Franklin game, you know, I just don't know if Giles County is as stout as they once were. I know they have a commit on their team and have some pretty good personnel, but they're just maybe not playing as well as they should be at this point in time in the game. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, Giles County's not as good of a team as they've been the past 2 years. They're still very good. So, but you know, the last 2 years, this has just been a really tough game for Page. A little common opponent they have here. They've both played CPA. Page loses 49-7. Giles County loses 48-12. So that's the only common opponent they have. So I don't know if we can take anything away from that. They do have a really good player in Cameron Ordway, the Ole Miss commit that's a wide receiver and a D-back for them. So that's something they do have up on Page. They've got a guy who can break it from anywhere at any time. So you got to worry about that. But again, this is a game Page can win. Michael Magochi in the passing game are going to have to play well. Page has got to find a way to get that running game just at the very least supplemental. They need some help out of the running game to win this game.
So Fairview and Page both have these big district games, of course, and we have some more district games coming up with Summit and Dixon, but talking on that Division II level, we have those are 2 big games right here in the heart of the thick of things. If you're going to make a move to try to get yourself in position to play down the road, these are 2 games that they're going to need.
Yeah, got to have these.
Moving on, the epic matchup, the clash of the week for us. Centennial 6-0, 2-0 in the district at Ravenwood, 5-0, 1-0 in the district. We can't talk enough about it, but we're going to break this game down. Let's break it down a little bit. Let's talk about the Centennials. What does Coach Rector and Centennial going to have to do to get over the hump and beat Ravenwood?
They got to rush the ball, which they're very good at, but they're going to have to do that in this game. You know, Deion Sanders has carried the bulk of the load. This is going to be one of those games where he's probably going to get 25, 30 carries. And if he does, that's probably pretty good for them. They've got to hold on the ball. They can't turn it over. But, hey, we got to control the line of scrimmage, got to rush for a lot of yards. That does 2 things. One, that means we've got a chance to score. It also keeps Ravenwood, Van Jefferson, Austin Percy off the field. I'll tell you something that I think is going to be interesting in this. Against Mount Juliet, Centennial kicker Nick Madonia hit a 52-yarder against Mount Juliet. That's a heck of a kick. If this thing comes down to a kick, I think the advantage has to go towards Cougars in that department. Wow. But that's what they got to do. They're going to have to play good special teams, have to rush the ball, and protect the ball too.
Well, we've talked about Ravenwood's offense a whole lot. You've got a passing attack with Austin Percy, Van Jefferson, and their whole crew. They have a quarterback that can spread you thin and pick you apart by running. And their defense has kind of gone under the radar. But before I get to their defense, I want to talk about Centennial real quick. Centennial on offense, like you said, I really think they're going to be a run-heavy team on this Friday night. Try to control that clock, just like you said, and see if they can't shorten the field up, shorten this game up a little bit, and keep it down. as you see overall, Ravenwood has been lighting the scoreboard up. 35, 40 points a game. Centennial maybe not as much, has put up some high numbers. So I think they're going to want to keep that score probably lower than what it's been, try to maintain the ball as much as possible. But back to Ravenwood. Ravenwood's defense has been hard-hitting all year and has played well, has played real well. And I'm sure that's the part that's kind of going overlooked right now because their offense is so high-powered. What do you think?
Well, they've got two leaders of that defense, really, and you've been hearing about them for the past couple of years. But Garrison Geronimus, Jeb Stewart, they both get after it every week. You're right. They're going to have to play well. They'll be looking for number 2. I see some really good collisions between those guys and him. But you're right. Their defense has really been the most impressive thing about Ravenwood so far. Yeah, that's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to find a way to get some 3-and-outs on Centennial and then get the ball back to their offense. So it's going to be a hard-hitting game, physical.
And I know Coach Hester is excited about this. Coach Hester can get a crowd, especially at the school level. Those student body, they love Coach Hester, and he can get a crowd pumped up better than anybody I've seen yet. When they go to this game, you want to talk about a home field advantage. When you go into Ravenwood, it's going to be standing room only, and their crowd and their student section is unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about choreographed cheers that those guys do that are just, it's fantastic. Give you chill bumps to go see, and I know this week is going to be exceptionally awesome to go see and experience at that atmosphere that's going to be there.
Well, and don't forget, 6-0 Centennial, 5-0 Ravenwood. Brian Rector is the one who started this program, comes in.
That's
Jack
right.
Daniels was the first head coach, but he brings in Brian, kind of the first I've ever seen in high school coach in waiting. Started that thing off right, man. What a tradition he built. Don't think the chatter hadn't already started. A lot of people are talking about Brian coming home, coming back to Ravenwood. He can get the crowd going too. This is going to be great. It's going to be a very, very fun game to be a part of.
It's going to be great. Make sure you follow us on Twitter because my Twitter feed is blowing up. CHS versus RHS. Great day to be a Raptor. Yeah. It's fantastic. I love it. We have classy student bodies on both sides. This ought to be great. All right, it's time, folks. We're moving to prediction time. Here it is right now. As it sits, I am getting completely dismantled from you right now. I am sitting at 13-7 overall. Tate is sitting at 16-3 overall. I'm just telling you, I just don't know if I can catch up, but we're going to see what we can do as we finish out this week's episode. Let's start real quick. Brentwood at Franklin. Who do you have?
Donnie Webb, Dr. Defense, and the Rebels come up with a good game plan. They get the win.
I'm going to agree with you. They're going to go over to Brentwood. Brentwood's going to have a knockdown, drag out. It's going to be so close, but I still think that Franklin is going to be 1 or 2 in the four horseman race that we have. So I'm going to go with you on that. I'm going to pick Franklin over Brentwood. Centennial Ravenwood. We're going to come back to that one next.
All right.
We're going to come back to that one at the last. Fairview at Lewis. Fairview at Lewis County. Going to Lewis County.
Yellow Jackets, I think they're getting healthy. I like what Coach Hughes is doing. I'm going with Fairview.
Fairview, I'm going to also say, man, the Jackets are going to go in stinging. You're not supposed to be stealing my thunder on that. Fairview's going in stinging at Lewis County. That's a big win for them. Fairview. Page at Giles.
The Fighting Patriots. I think they're better. I think they're going to beat them this year.
Once again, you're stealing my thunder. The Pats are going to go in. They're going to get a big win at Giles County. Not sure the last time they won there, but they're going to win this year. Page goes in and gets that. Summit versus Dixon.
Man, I'd give up the lead I've got if we could get a win for Sparty. I think they're going to come close again, but I think Dixon just has too much firepower for them.
I shouldn't have to say anything. Go Sparty.
Go Sparty.
Sparty's going to win. First ever home win for Summit.
I hope you're right,
I'm predicting it right here. Brian Coleman gets his first ever win on the year, and we get the first home win ever. Last but not least, the epic clash. Centennial versus Ravenwood. Who you have?
It's going to be a great one. Raptors are 11 AAA defending champs. Until somebody beats them, I'm going with Coach Hester and the Raptors.
I'm going with you as well, too. Ravenwood, just a little bit too much firepower. Hashtag great day to be a Ravenwood Raptor. Make sure you go to this game. Stay tuned to see what happens next week. And as always, remember to stay nice, Williamson County. We'll see you next time.